We've talked often in the past, one of the things that's always concerned you is inflation. We see it sort of coming down in the UK. How difficult has it made your job in the past few years?
When we had the real spike in interest rates in 22, a lot of these very strong growth names really took a hit, and the market hadn't quite appreciated quite what it was likely to do to earnings and intrinsic value of businesses and what the market could do to them. And we had some very big falls. It was easy to see in hindsight, and as always the case, there are some stocks that were just simply overvalued based on higher interest rates, and some stocks which look quite good value.
We're going to have in 2024 70 general elections right around the world. Of course, Putin's was a slam dunk. And everywhere else we go now, there's a movement, possibly in Europe to the right, significantly, a huge void of outcome in the United States of America. Does that give you sleepless nights as fund and portfolio managers?
I remember very distinctly in 2016 when we had the last Trump victory, was we sat in our asset allocation meeting at Investec and just sort of trying to hypothesize about what was going to happen with the election. And people were beginning to think that Trump might win. There was a danger, and there were a lot of people that were very worried about what that might do for the market, and it was going to be pretty serious. He got elected, the market just went straight up, and this really caught a lot of people by surprise. Now, looking back on it, it was pretty obvious why, but you never really know how the market's going to react.
Do you feel the city is happy or is containing itself with the idea of a Labour landslide, or do you feel they have a lot more work to do?
The UK market has had a very poor run for a long time and looks, on most fundamentals, looks fairly cheap. Many of the companies are struggling, and there's lots of very good companies which do very good things that are continuing to report really quite good performances. But the market seems to largely ignore the UK. And we've seen a little bit of performance, and certainly the UK market has performed very well this year. I think it's one of the best performing Western markets this year, isn't it? And therefore I think that's the market saying, A, we're not too worried about Starmer, and B, international investors are looking at the UK market and saying there are some quite attractive businesses here to pick up.
Do you think the investing world at large is concerned about the management of debt, or do you think that the central banks with their liaison have got the matter under control?
This debt situation is it. My whole career, people been worried about the debt situation, and yet it goes up and up. And I remember, back in the day when I was probably in my 20s or in my teens, there was a big clock on Times Square, I think in New York, just said how big the national debt was, and then suddenly they took it away. But the market didn't worry about it. The market doesn't seem to be worried about it now. But what I'm quite certain, at some stage, if interest rates have to start going up again because inflation comes back, because the oil price gets out of control, and I think most of it will be around the oil price or energy prices, and inflation comes back and they have to start putting interest rates and the debt becomes unsustainable, then there'll be a problem. One of the things that worries me about our move towards net zero, which I think is absolutely, we have a problem with climate change and we need to address it. But, and I think I've said this before, not investing in oil could be more painful for society in the world than in continuing to find oil at sensible prices and us being moderate users of oil and trying to use less of it. If we fail to find enough of it and in the right places, and not then become beholden to one or two countries like Russia and the Saudis, we could find ourselves in a very, very difficult position. And those problems may get ahead of our issue around climate change. So we need to continue to invest in oil, we need to continue to find and manage the oil price.